Okay, so I'll go ahead with the introduction. So this is Joshua Meredith, JD, Client Relationship Executive focusing on higher education in New York with, and I somehow I have a mental block against pronouncing, is it Deloitte?
Deloitte.
Deloitte, I knew that was right, okay, wrong. With Deloitte Consulting, which I should know because it's an enormous organization getting better and more known every day. For more than 12 years, Joshua has worked at and with institutions of higher education to help them overcome technology and strategy-based challenges. Before coming to Deloitte in 2023, Joshua worked as Senior Director of Career Advising at Yeshiva University and previously as the Assistant Dean for Analytics, Technology, and Security Programs at Georgetown University. In addition to his role as administrator, thank you. Yikes. Sorry. Joshua has been a faculty member since 2015 and currently teaches courses in workplace technology and leadership ethics at Georgetown University and Muhlenberg College. He previously taught at Yeshiva University in Montclair State University. Joshua has a passion for empowering administrators, faculty, and students through technology.
Thank you.
For the majority of his career, he has worked to find solutions and implement them in his business units and with clients. In addition to his duties in New York, Joshua works to support Deloitte's efforts at the George Washington University and Syracuse University, and alumnus at both institutions. Thank you and welcome back to City Tech, Joshua.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to switch here. Before we get started, I'm going to ruin all the cameras for just 1 second. Everyone stand up, take a deep breath, stretch, take a moment. We post-lunch. I know how this goes, right? I've been here before. Whatever you need to do, close your eyes, take a moment. So there's that. I still don't have slides. That's fine. We don't really need those. Everyone good? We're going to have to take a deep breath, right? We get a little energy back, right? That post-lunch situation. Okay, I'm going to take a quick poll because I like to be interactive, okay, as we get the slides moving, okay? Who here works for CUNY? Okay, how many of you know what the lovely firm that I work for is doing for CUNY? Does anyone know? Oh, we got 2. Okay, so that means I can speak freely, okay? Deloitte just started the largest project in CUNY history. We're going to replace your ERP system, okay? So we are with you guys for the foreseeable future, okay? It's called CUNY Work, okay? All the systems that you use, PTO, benefits, human capital, anything around that, finance, everything, soup to nuts, that's us. All your accounting systems, everything. It'll be ready in 2 years. That's what they tell me, knock on wood, okay? We're working here every single day. We have a legitimate army of people who are working on this. Over 100 people from Deloitte every day get up and now think about only CUNY, and I love that because I claim to be from the city of New York, even though I live in New Jersey now. I call myself a long-term temporary resident, okay? And it is very exciting for us to be working with you all at CUNY. So if you ever need anything, I'm your guy. So I'm the person now, okay? And we are really excited to do this project with you. And SUNY Central, I go there all the time. They tell me that all the lovely people at the campuses are very excited. I'm seeing that excitement a little bit. Today, I want to talk to you about microcredentials for a changing world and really get into sort of the weeds. Just to give you a little background on some of the research that we've done internally and what we look like at Deloitte, because I think that is at least a basis point for all of you. Deloitte has 150,000 employees here in the United States, okay? 450,000 globally, 127 offices across the world. So this is, when I say an office, that's a major city. Okay, so this is big time. And I got here 2.5 years ago. They started throwing things at me. I said, "What are you talking about?" We have 6,000 people at 30 Rock every day. Okay, like We're large. So when we do research, there's a large internal base to really look at before we even get to start talking to our clients, okay? If you look at the 100 largest universities in the country, we work with 99 of them, okay? We work with 500 higher education clients every single year. So we've got some chops here. We can talk to some people. We can learn some things about some diverse campuses. That didn't work. Let's see. Nope. Oh, there we go. You guys are, all of us, right? We're experiencing a lot of change right now, aren't we? Right? Like, a lot of things have changed since January, okay? But like, things have been changing for a long time around us. And I think these highlight some of the others. Oh, by the way, if you want to take photos of the slides, go ahead, please. We're facing a lot of different things that are going on, okay? I think the ones that are important for us, right, is student outcomes and workforce skills gaps. And I think we're really talking about the workforce skills gaps right now. And that's what I'm going to try to spend the next 20-ish minutes. I got about that. Hey Siri, 20-minute timer. I got 20 minutes left, and I want to spend time with that. You're also, all of you, because I was an administrator just like you a few minutes ago, doing more with less, right? So how do we build repeatable systems, okay, that take less of our time so we don't have to work weekends, right? And then we don't have to push our staffs to the absolute breaking point so we can actually keep them, okay? And how do we do that? How do we move that forward? So that's what I'm gonna spend some time on. Workforce is changing at a drastic pace, okay? I just spent the last few months on the road with Adobe talking about how generative AI is affecting the workforce. And I think you're seeing one of those times in history where things are driving forward at a pace which is we can't control, right? And it's going faster than sometimes that we know what to do with. I think that's a really interesting subtext for what we're talking about today. 74% of employers, okay, we work with 400 plus of the Fortune 500, cannot fill the needs of their staff. Now that helps a firm like ours because we come in and we have some of those skills, but we need to even hire employees. We're even struggling to find the employees that we need, okay? If you look at this, there's like a little box here, but number one thing that we're looking for is talent, right? That's where everyone is struggling the most in terms of development. My boss, Roy, this is a quote from him. I think the second part, right? Understanding they may need new skills as their careers progress and adopting lifelong learning practices to keep their competence relevant couldn't be more important right now. By the time a college student graduates, some of the skills that they learned in freshman and sophomore years are already outdated in the field. I'm seeing this more and more in terms of technology. We are seeing students who have obtained, through internships, sophomore year of college, the internship badge that they received, whatever workforce certification they might have gotten, is no longer relevant at graduation or is now outdated and they need to go for recertification. Okay? So the skills that we're teaching them, we're gonna have to figure out a way to get to them either late in the game or post bachelor's degree. I think that's incredibly. I worked in continuing studies for many, many years. I still do technically because I'm teaching it, right? Students are coming and they just don't have the technical capabilities that they should have. I'm teaching 3 courses right now in addition to my day job. I've given up on sleep completely. I have 50 papers to grade. We're not getting any closer, and time is ticking. Some of you know this world. Yes, I see some light nodding, okay? I told my students for their class presentations at the end of the semester, I said, please, because I didn't want to read boring slides for their class presentation. I said, please put it in ChatGPT. Get an Adobe license for the week, put it in there, right? Find a way to make it more interesting, right? I encourage them. It's not cheating. I encourage them to do this. Not all of them did it. The ones who did, believe it or not, are getting higher scores because they have color, they're interesting, they actually bring the viewer in a little bit more. One student, no offense to this person, they sent me slides. It was all text. There was not one image. It was all one color. And I said, I actually just responded, would you do this at work, right? And they said, well, probably not. And I went, well, why'd you do it for the class? I gave you a tool, right? So that's something we need to keep in mind. There are tools out there that can actually help our students progress in their careers. Microcredentials, we've gone over this a bunch of times today, right? Small, repeatable courses, flexible format, incredibly important, stackable. We're at Deloitte, we're into the stackables, okay? Believe it or not, we have a robust internal training system, and they're all stacked, okay? It's a deck of cards. I go through one, it leads me to the next one, which leads me to the next one, leads me to the next one, right? They're affordable, more affordable, right? All types of learners, every type of industry can use these. Who here knows the largest singular investment coming to New York State, probably in the last 50 years? That's coming, it just started. The money's going to start to flow in. Does anyone know what it is? Anybody know where it is? No? Anybody? You want to take a guess? Anybody want to guess? The largest singular pot of development money in the history of New York State. It's not that one, but that one's close. That's the second largest, I believe. Anyone know what the largest is? Empire AI, it's related to that. We're getting warmer. Anyone know where Liverpool, New York is? You know where it is, right? It's north of Syracuse. What are they building there? Liverpool, New York's going to have the largest chips development plant in the United States. Micron, right? The largest chips development plant in, not just in New York, not in the Northeast, the entire United States of America. 20,000 direct jobs at the plant. 40,000 more jobs that support that plant. Do we have enough people? Does SUNY and CUNY have enough people to give to Micron to feed those jobs? No. Can we retrain a lot of people? You bet we can, right? Is affordable housing in Liverpool and Syracuse available? Oh yeah, okay? We've got a real opportunity in front of us. We can do it fast, right? I think the key to building a good micro-credential is you can do it quickly. It can adapt to the marketplace that exists right now, right? What does the governor of New York talk about? Chips, Empire AI, and nursing jobs. It's all she talks about all day long, right? You guys are at the core of that. Why are microcredentials useful and important for the future of work? We have something called the Future of Work Institute where we study what's coming next. How can higher education institutions go about implementing those microcredentials? That's the rest of my talk. Why are they important? Okay? We're living in an era of continuous education. I just said this, the shelf life of most technical skills is less than 3 years. So our human skills need to adapt, right? 50% of all tasks across all occupations are uniquely human, so we can't do them by a computer. Right? 63% of employers state skills gap in the labor market is the main barrier to transformation. 39% of workers' core skills will change by 2030. That number on the end is scary, right? 40% of all workers, that includes all of you, okay? So 40% of this room is gonna need different skills in 4 years from now in order to be able to complete their jobs. What are we going to have to do? We're going to have to teach, right? It's the only way we're going to get through this. It's the only way we're going to be able to do it. We're going to need microcredentials. We're going to need badging. The last presentation was great. Presentations this morning were fantastic. You guys really are at the cutting edge. Because if we don't do this, what are we going to have? We're going to have employers who say, you don't meet the skills, right? They're either going to try, I know what they're going to try. First, they're going to try to reskill everyone, which we know they can't do, right? They just don't have the internal human resources teams and teaching teams to do that. Step number 2 will be to replace some of their people with computer technology, which also won't work. And the third is they'll finally come to all of us and say, hey, can you help us? By the time we get to step number 3, it'll be too late. So we should be doing it now in terms of partnerships. The compelling value proposition. The trifecta of the changing economy, future of work, and need for new skills is perfect for a future world where micro-credentials are key. Deloitte, we hire a lot of people, right? We go out and we hire sophomores and juniors for internships. 80% of those sophomores and juniors end up with a full-time offer. Like 75% of them actually start. So if we do that, right, it's like 20,000 people a year, some ridiculous number nationwide. Okay, because our churn rate at 150,000 employees is pretty large, as you can imagine, right? Even 7 to 8% is big. We need to fill the skills gap for employers and enhance the ROI for our students and deliver on the education mission that we're here to do, right? Not everyone needs to be a large R1 institution. This is no offense, Rutgers, that's doing a ton of research and playing football, right? That's not the educational mission of a lot of the CUNY institutions that I know are represented in this room, okay? Your job is to train the jobs of tomorrow, right? And help our students move forward. Now, I think that's a great mission, and I think that's why we're kind of doing this. Deloitte is looking for people with micro-credentials in the hiring process. I'm looking for people with badges. I'm looking for people with accredited skills to come into the market. You may or may not know this, Deloitte is the largest implementer of Workday and Oracle systems nationwide. You all are getting Workday. It's like CUNY work, okay? University of Buffalo's in the room, they have Oracle, right? Rutgers has a mishmash of things, as they should, they're enormous, right? We can't hire enough people with Workday and Oracle certifications to meet the demand of our commercial and government clients. If you told me tomorrow that you had a Workday certification, right? And you were gonna get 30 Workday certified people over the next 4 months, I almost could guarantee that almost 29 of those 30 would have jobs at the end if they were unemployed, or 29 of those 30 would be able to change jobs into whatever they want. We just don't have enough people, right? And that you must, to work on a project like that at either a large commercial or a large government client or a large higher education institution, which is the government, believe it or not, okay? You need that certification. How can we go about implementing these micro-credentials, right? First of all, I think the number one thing, career services people know this, okay? And I know there's career services people in the room. You gotta look at where your partnerships are, right? CUNY has great relationships in the marketplace, okay? I have New York Creates, New York Jobs Council. JP Morgan Chase is on that council. You know why? Because I sat next to them in a room last year, okay? As we mentored some students. Figure out how to make that partnership happen. The largest tech implementers are hiring, right? I know that the marketplace looks weird now, right? And that the great, change in jobs that we had a few years ago during COVID is now over, and we're having what I would call people are just like sitting in their spot and they don't want to move, right? Because they're worried about the economy, they're worried about the job market. The job market added 165,000 jobs last quarter. Okay, and I know it's going to continue to grow. Now, it changes, right? Skills change, but those partnerships are out there. We talked about Credly this morning, right? Credly's great. We love that. LinkedIn Learning, also huge, huge helpers in this. I think LinkedIn's really interesting for a number of reasons because it can lead to an outcome of an employer or an employer's recruiter seeing that you've gotten the badge. See that you got the micro-credentials, see that you got the certification, right? The partnerships with other higher ed institutions, embracing systemness. Here's one thing that we don't talk about enough here in the state of New York. How many institutions does the state of New York, technically, I'm gonna say control lightly, right? How many are public institutions? Does anyone know the number? Total, state of New York. You all work for the system. 64 in SUNY, and how many in CUNY? 24, 25, right? 28 was numbers. There's some they consider semi, right? CUNY, right? So we've got hit or miss, right? Somewhere around 90 institutions. many of which are community colleges. We got four-year institutions. We got four-year colleges. We got mega institutions. Buffalo's in the room, right? We got Stony Brook, also gigantic, Albany, Binghamton. We got we got technical colleges. We've got nursing schools. We got everything here, don't we? We don't talk about systemness enough. Why can't the model that University at Buffalo has created and the model that's being created here at City Tech, why can't that model become the house for all we do at the other institutions? Do you think that CUNY and some of our institutions can afford, or other SUNY schools, to be frank, can afford to go out there and spend the money to build an entire micro-credential and badging system? I'm seeing some light nodding of no, but I'm going to tell you the answer is no, right? There's just not that dollars out there. How do we embrace systemness where we take the models that you've learned about in this room and we push them across, right? The rest of the system. It helps CUNY City Tech because they're going to get some funding out of it, right? And their model might work at other institutions. The University at Buffalo model is clearly working very well. Claps to all of you, right? That model's working great. Rutgers is across the river, right? And maybe, the sea, as we would say. But that doesn't mean that some of the stuff that they've picked up on can't be used here in the state of New York. They're also a public institution. We have not done that enough, okay? Trying to recreate the model, I just talked to SUNY about this. Trying to recreate the model at 64 institutions, all of which look differently in 64 different geographies, from Buffalo to Farmingdale, is literally impossible. You can't do it. I wouldn't encourage anyone to. You'd need a large SI, that's us, Deloitte, to try to do that, and it costs $50 million, which SUNY isn't going to spend, and neither would I encourage them to do it anyway, because I don't even know if we can be successful. You all can be successful though, right? Your provost can get together and say, hey, we've got a plan. Here's the plan. Take the plan, right? It could work. The benefits for all of you: enhanced tracking and reporting. CUNY's all on one central LMS. So is SUNY, okay? It allows for detailed tracking of learners' progress and achievements, right? You also, believe it or not, you can feed things in to your LMS system, which can really help drive that stackable content, the customized learning paths, right? Educators can create personalized learning experience tailored to individual needs. If you don't think that you can do that as an individual administrator, this is a time for an AI accelerator to analyze the student and build them an individual learning path. Believe it or not, that is possible, okay? Microcredentials can motivate learners by providing tangible goals and recognition for those skills. It also earns faster, believe it or not. Companies give employee bonuses based on the completion of a microcredential. We've seen a lot of it over the years. I've seen it in a lot of different places. The certificate model, right, where anyone remember the old certificate model? You had 5 courses. They were on Saturday mornings. You did 6 weeks. You finished one course. You went to the next one, right? There's people smiling because maybe some of you went through this, taught them. They were daunting, right? They took a long time. They took 6 months, and then at the end, you got a certificate in PMBOK, right? You took the PMBOK exam, and then you had your project management, certification, and your job gave you, $10,000. In addition, they paid for the course. Everyone remember that model? Great. That model still exists and is amazing. You're telling me we couldn't do that through a microcredential faster and in a more modular way that's more agile, that doesn't require someone to get on a New York City bus, travel 40 minutes on a Saturday morning, sit in a room for 5 hours, and then take that 40-minute bus back, right? You guys know what I'm saying. I think the LMS is the strategy and key that makes us move forward in every single one of these scenarios. The modern LMS systems that all of you are on, okay? This is no offense to other older LMS systems that we may have grown up with, but they allow for a lot of this, right? Content modules, assessment, more integration, especially with third-party tools. They have amazing reporting and analytics. I happen to be using Canvas at both institutions that I'm teaching at this semester. Again, I haven't slept in months, but the key element of it is I get great reporting on when those students are in there, okay? I can see how many hours they've spent. I can see how long it takes them to complete an assignment, right? Have I scoped appropriately? Something I constantly say. I think it's interesting, right? We can see as a faculty member where this is going. And then for all of you, many program administrators out there, right? Program administrators, hands, air, yes, couple, okay, some silently. You can see how a program is doing overall, right? You also can see path to learning, right? Now look, grade inflation is a thing, but we can generally see on some level if students are achieving well or not, right? I know that grades might be a slightly bit higher than maybe we want, but that doesn't mean that we can't, in fact, go and actually see what's being successful. Current trends. Systems like, there's a system in British Columbia which has stackables. These are credentials that are being created. They build on the credentials over time. So they're flexing with the market. We did a little case study on that. We think it's really interesting. Industry collaboration. We've talked about digital badging a ton here. I came late in the day, so some of this is a little bit repetitive, right? But these are the things where we're seeing high trend mark, okay? This slide was created with AI. A little bit about us, just before I get you out of here. We study the future of work, a lot of which is published on our website and is completely free to you. We just published an article on how AI is affecting the job market. Okay, go on there. It's like 20 pages. Read it on a Sunday. Read it with the New York Times. Whatever you do on a Sunday. It's interesting, right? You get a little flavor of what we think is going to happen. Because why do we think it's going to happen? Some of it is we actually went and we talked to some people in the field. The secondary part is we're actually doing the work, right? Like I talked to the teams who implemented our large commercial clients on Wall Street, right? Who also were at how many university systems and institutions who were actually doing the work of placing AI on those campuses, right? I could see it. I could see what's happening. AI, and I said this when I was here a few weeks ago, AI is a tool. It's a shovel, okay? That's what we should think about it as. Not as a replacement, okay? Because if you think about it as a replacement, you're immediately going to think of it as a negative, right? It's going to help people do their jobs faster, right? It's going to help their people and us improve potentially, right? I always talk to, now I was an advisor. I had 250 students was my load, okay? I did the best I could to get to as many of them every semester as I could. Did some fall through the cracks? 100%. Could I talk to all of them in a semester? Absolutely not. How did I track them? How do you think I tracked my communications and outreach? What was it? Excel? I hear the word. Text, email. I used an Excel file. I had them in an Excel file. I marked them off as I went through the semester. 1 if they had an interaction, 0 if we had nothing. At the end of the semester, I tallied it up. I had a team of advisors, right? We had 2,000 students at Yeshiva. It's not a large institution. We tried to get to as many of those 2,000 students every single semester as we could. Here are the problems that we ran into. The data is bad, right? Okay? We didn't always have the right student numbers from the registrar's office. You've all experienced this problem, okay? Don't lie to me, all right? We didn't know who was live and who wasn't, who had graduated, who finished, who commenced. I have 1 minute left, so I'm going to wrap this up. But with that said, if I had AI, I would have guaranteed we could have gotten to 80 to 90% of those students every semester. Why? Because I would have known that I hadn't talked to them, right? Without having to query and run a report, figure out why, and then integrate another report. It would have been done immediately for me. I'd been like, okay, I haven't seen Benjamin or Sarah or Michelle or Susan. I haven't seen any of them this semester. I'm going to go find them, right? Oh, they're not responding to my emails? Oh, nice try. I'm going to figure out where your class is, and I'm going to come accost you before class because I'm your career advisor, and you haven't checked in with me in 6 months, and you're going to complain at the end that you don't have a job. Well, I'm not going to let that happen, right? Or the kids I helped get into law school, or we helped with law school because I was pre-law, because I'm an attorney. I don't know why. But the question is, they all want to go to law school. Have you started on your application? It's November, okay? Like they're due in 45 days. They're like, oh, I'm gonna handle it in the last 2 weeks. I was like, so no, like we're not doing that. Okay? AI could have accelerated that pretty quickly, right? If you look at our Wall Street clients, right? And look, we have government clients, we have Wall Street clients, we have every kind of client you can imagine. Wall Street is like a stone's throw from here, so I keep referencing it. But our government clients are using it too, right? You have large data models, almost all of you. CUNY is enormous, SUNY is enormous when it comes to just the people who work there. I haven't even gotten to the students, right? You have 10,000 employees here in the CUNY system. That doesn't even include full-time faculty. That's a big number. That's like not a number that you can just like look through an Excel file and like find your friend, okay? So like we're helping people like yourselves, people private industry, manage this. Okay, I said too many things. Do we have time for questions? Do we? We have some citations here. I'll leave this one up. Comments, questions? Take that one. I'll go.
Actually, I'll do it the other way around.
Oh, other way around. Sorry. I have a loud voice, so the microphone wasn't really needed, but I get that it's recorded, so we'll have one of those moments.
Thank you for your presentation. One thing that I struggle with is trying to make industry collaborations. And how do I get to them? Who do I call? And who do I email? And how do I start the process?
First process is, have you called alumni services within your own institution? Because I'm going to guarantee that there are CUNY alum who are in the network who would like to help you. Here's an example that I know of directly from my own business. Deloitte has the CEO of our firm and the New York managing partner are both CUNY alum. Not graduate school, undergrad, okay? Deloitte's a part of a number of these CUNY connectors that we have. If there's other people who have come through CUNY who have gotten to where they need it, they're always going to take a meeting with their home institution. Okay? University at Buffalo has 25,000 students right now. 30,000 students. Okay? I'm sorry, I estimated low. They have 30,000 students. That means every year they're graduating somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 students. Those students go out into the workforce, right? They don't just like disappear, right? Well, you just have to go find them, right? I think that's the number one way that we've been encouraging people to do that. Now, we have systems to help you find those people if you can't find them, which I know is a huge barrier to entry. But I think that is the number one way. I also think like New York Creates, New York Jobs Council, all of those are really, really valuable in, just building that baseline connection. So there's that. I think that's the starting point. That's it? Oh, Jose.
Joshua, thank you for the presentation.
Pleasure.
My question goes back, you mentioned the learning management system, and that's something that we here at City Tech are focusing on with Microcredentials is to integrate the badges into the LMS so that, kind of be more efficient to that process. That's something I didn't hear from the other schools. I'm curious to hear from you and maybe some of the other presenters. How were they using the LMS in that case, and that to incorporate the process of the microcredentials within the LMS and the courses?
So you're on D2L Brightspace, right? And so is SUNY. So you're on the same system. D2L Brightspace can be set up in what's something called instances. So SUNY, for example, has 4 different instances of D2L Brightspace that are currently in the larger market, right? There's actually a few SUNY schools that are not actually even on D2L Brightspace yet because their non-credit students exist in another platform, and we have mentioned to this as that this is not a great idea. Okay, what we have thought is the LMS has generally been for credit-bearing, 4-year, and graduate students. All I think that needs to be done is if you port over a new instance of Brightspace to just use for non-credit students, like the technical plumbing, right? that that's the way to solve the registrar issue that exists, I think, on a lot of campuses, right? Because the problem, one of the things you struggle to is how do we actually get them into the system, right? Because they're not, sometimes, right, they don't get a full CUNY ID or a CUNY email. Is that, I'm not saying something that's incorrect, right? Yeah, so if there's a way to port them into their own instance, right? Believe it or not, on the back end, the plumbing of those instances can be weaved together, right? So like, let's say we know that continuing ed, for at least in my knowledge, has always been sort of on the side, right? And not as important as sort of the 4-year graduating, we got to give the degrees out, right? And also, not only has continuing ed been in that department, but I would say that returning ed, right? So someone who didn't graduate college, right? They have like 40 or 50 credits, and now they want to come back and they want to finish their degree. Well, that's a struggle point because how do we reintegrate them into the system? Where I worked at Georgetown, they weren't even part of the main university. They were siphoned off into a small other section that existed within its own systems. And I used to say, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And if you're going to use an LMS, right, the LMS allows for integration with those students because some of them might say, hey, I got a micro-credential at City Tech, and I've got like 85 credits at like LaGuardia, and I got another 30 credits at Hunter and whatever else, right? Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, they've been everywhere, right? Because those students exist, okay? And why can't I go get my degree now? And we take their information, we weave them back in, right? And we give them 3 credits for their micro-credential. And all of a sudden, they only need 28 credits left. And then our degree-seeking friends now have a new student that they can complete. But that can't be done without the right plumbing. So that's one thought space. Because how many of you are using a system outside of your traditional LMS or something else for a micro-credential certificate or other non-credit bearing course? Anybody? Yeah. It happens. It's a real thing.
One more.
I'm causing time problems, but I apologize.
Yeah, okay. So these technical micro-credentials, right?
Yep.
At some point with the technology, it becomes obsolete. Do you think the micro-credentials should have some expiration date on it?
That's a really
Or
good
it
question.
becomes like history? I mean,
That's a really good question.
or I got a micro-credential 5 years ago, and then she got a micro-credential just now. Mm-hmm. Which one would you hire?
It depends on if you've used it or not, right? So like one of the things that, if you think about corporate micro-credentials and badging, right? So like AWS has 20 certificates that you need to get this gold jacket thing that Benito and Jose and I were talking about the other day. And Salesforce also has a robust credentialing system. They require like re-education every once in a while, right? I don't know how long they've been using, but that has to come from the technical ones. It's got to come from the partner, I would imagine, right? Or it's got to come from the field. Because if you're telling me, I could almost tell you that because of generative AI, any micro-credential probably prior that has no AI basis at all probably is outdated at this point because the whole field has been transformed, right? So if you have like, I don't know, like a Drupal, for example, certification, right? Which is a great certification to have, and a lot of people are still using, I would go get that recertified because Drupal's now using some AI tools, right, in their own systems. So there's that.
Just a little comment, it depends on the system, right? Like, for example, in professional certifications for IT, Cisco, for example, right? You enter at the associate level, you have 3 years for that certification. After that, 3 years expire. But you are not expected to retake that certification. You are expected to take the next one, the manager, right? So some things it depends on the field, right? So there are other certifications where they are like life skills that you just develop and they don't expire. So it depends on the field, the model.
Great.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much, Joshua. Thanks for coming back. Thank you.